or the choice is a false one. Moving on. This is from Going South. Friend of the channel, Going South. Good melt day. Chance of blue ocean event up to 53%. 53%. Those are pretty good odds for a blue ocean event. Torstein says, so I'm soft launching the promised volume enhanced BOE meter, and we're now at 53% chance of 2020 blue ocean event, the first one in 3 million years. Biomass overruled some bad melt days and said they were good melt days. There you go. Moving on. In wildfire news, abandoned by authorities, these fire-threatened towns set up their own FEMA-like response. Hold on. I'm going to have to go over here for this. Oh, no. This is from Newsbreak.com. Boulder Creek, California, feeling abandoned by the state and federal government during an unparalleled conflagration of fires. Volunteer firefighting units in 2 Santa Cruz mountain towns have been forced to tap an alternative. Unofficial help from an elite network of the nation's finest emergency response units, who quickly provided needed equipment and support. Over the weekend, crews from Menlo Park delivered spare water tenders, firefighting rigs, cots, sleeping bags, radios, and communication equipment, food and water to struggling firefighting units in Boulder Creek and Ben Lomond. There, veteran and decorated first responders established makeshift command and operation centers to battle the CZU lightning complex fire raging in the mountains above Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, you say? You say these wildfires are affecting wealthy people, you say. Oh. We got to save the wealthy people. These guys needed the help. They're my people. So we sprang into action, said the Menlo Park Fire Protection District Chief, Harold Schapelhuman. It's just what we do, no questions asked. As of Monday, the CZU fire had burned 78,000 acres, destroying 276 homes, and was only 13% contained. Mother Nature was good to the firefighters Sunday night, bringing cooler temperatures and even some rain to dampen the fires, and CAL FIRE crews were able to drop water Monday. But if lightning or strong southward winds return, it could threaten communities in the fire's path, including Felton, Santa Cruz, and evacuated campus of UC Santa Cruz. The body of a 70-year-old man was recovered in the fire area over the weekend, according to Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Chief Deputy Chris Clark. Hold on. So they basically just sprang into action, volunteered their services. That's good. In Boulder Creek, the volunteer firefighters had been battling flames nearly nonstop for 5 days and were exhausted. They'd been catching naps when they could on the concrete floor of the firehouse amid the rolling engines, emergency calls, and swapping shifts with their crewmates. As a result, the firehouse, engine room, kitchen, and dining hall looked ragtag with water bottles, electrolyte packets, and snack food items laying haphazardly. Okay. That's good. Let's move into some hurricane news. This tweeted out by AccuWeather. Laura was upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane Tuesday morning and is forecast to reach major hurricane status as at least a Category 3 prior to landfall. More on this. Laura may undergo rapid strengthening. That's what happened to, what was it, Harvey, I think? Got very, very strong, very fast. Before slamming into Gulf Coast, This is from yesterday. After lashing parts of the Caribbean with deadly force over the weekend, Laura is expected to continue to strengthen as it tracks over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and to unleash a blow of hurricane-force winds and flooding rainfall on the U.S. Gulf Coast at midweek, just over 48 hours after Marco's landfall. Laura was upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane Tuesday morning. Laura is forecast to reach major hurricane status as at least a Category 3 prior to landfall. A major hurricane has maximum sustained winds of at least 111 miles per hour. Laura left behind damage and flooding while it pushed across the northern Caribbean as a tropical storm. At least 13 deaths have been blamed on Laura, 4 of which occurred in the Dominican Republic and 9 in Haiti. Several remain missing on Monday. As at 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time Tuesday, the storm was about 145 miles northwest of the western tip of Cuba and 625 miles southeast of Lake Charles, Louisiana, with maximum sustained winds of 75 miles per hour. Laura's forward speed was 17 miles per hour to the west-northwest, according to the National Hurricane Center. That's what's happening with that. Let's see, where are we? This is a good tweet from D. Coronata, who I follow on Twitter. The step function of modern global temperatures. Each step is a hottest year on record that within 15 years becomes the new benchmark, where no year ever gets colder than that year. This is a step function, quote unquote. Instead of linear increases, you have sharp rises followed by ringing. So here you go, right? The new record becomes the benchmark. So here's a record here, 1982 or 81. Record high year. Here becomes the low by 1996 or so. Next step here, 1988, becomes the new low. I mean, it becomes the new low very quickly. So here, another one in 1998 becomes the new low in 2011. But look how quickly these temperatures are rising. I mean, these are leaving these old fluctuations in the dust. And we are here now. Another high, 2020. Maybe I can blow this up a little bit for y'all. But that is exactly what's happening. Just some good graphs to go along with knowledge. We have 152 watching, 64 likes. Please like up the video. And if you are new, please subscribe. Let's see. Here, let's get into some meat. As in non-meat. Let's get into some vegetables. It's from Go Green. Beginning of end of world as a habitable planet finally begins to focus minds. Shame it took decades. Climate is taking on a growing role for voters. Research suggests. Oh, you don't say. This is from the New York Times. Climate is taking on a growing role for voters. Research suggests concern about global warming is steady despite other crises. A survey found that the number of voters who are deeply engaged on the issue is rising sharply. Thanks to you, you kind and wonderful watchers of this program, I believe we are raising awareness of this on an exponential level. Hopefully more exponential than climate change, but we'll see. It's a race. This picture is from a climate rally in San Francisco last year. The number of Americans who feel passionately about climate change is rising sharply, and the issue appears likely to play a more important role in this year's election than ever before, a new survey shows. What's more, despite the turmoil caused by overlapping national and global crises, support for action to curb climate change has not diminished. Backing for government to do more to deal with global warming at 68% in May of 2018 was at the same level in 2020, according to the survey issued Monday. People can walk and chew gum at the same time, said John A. Krosnick. Hold on one second. A professor of communication, political science, and psychology at Stanford University, and the leader of the project. Many social scientists may have predicted a different result. A hypothesis in psychology called the finite pool of worry suggests that when people's level of concern about one issue rises, concern about others tend to fall. Okay. Climate change under such thinking appeared to be a luxury good issue, the sort of thing that's nice to have if you can afford it, but which gets pushed down the list of priorities in tough times. The survey, the latest in a 23-year series, suggests that instead, climate change has become important enough to Americans that it remains prominent despite the global coronavirus pandemic, with its rising death count on the United States, as well as the related national economic crisis, the pressures of self-isolation brought on by the pandemic, and a never-ending rush of other news. The most striking part of the survey, Dr. Krosnick said, is the growth of a group he called the issue public around climate change. An issue public is a community that feels an issue is extremely important to them personally. They are the people who make things happen on the issue, Dr. Krosnick said. That means, for example, making donations to lobbying groups, sending emails to lawmakers, attending rallies, and voting. The issue public around climate change has grown tremendously over time, the survey suggests. In 2015, the group was 13% of the population. By 2020, it had nearly doubled to 25%. Democratic candidates appear to be reaping the benefits of that shift. For instance, a wave of climate donors has flocked to former Vice President Joe Biden. That's a departure from 11 years ago when some party leaders discouraged fundraising based on climate change. Dr. Krosnick said the issue public behind climate change at 25% was now the second largest he had seen, trailing only the group focused on abortion at 31%. By comparison, the group of American adults who are passionate about gun control generally hovers around 17%, and capital punishment weighs in at about 14%. All right. Well, that's good to know, and I told you so. I told you that people care about climate change more and more. It's a really huge issue, and I showed you a flash poll the other day that said, that was only behind Medicare for all was climate change. Well, they worded it as the Green New Deal. Green New Deal was second only to Medicare for all as far as platform issues for people who were concerned, what people were concerned about as far as voting this election. That's surprising to me, but also I'd say there's probably more people concerned with climate change, more and more people concerned with climate change. And, Piator, stop commenting in the chat. Okie dokie. You can go away now. If you're trying to tell me what it is that, what it is that I'm supposed to be talking about, all right? Go, I don't know, find something else to do. Or be blocked, whatever you want. Or I don't know, or just be blocked. Bye-bye. It's just that easy. Yeah, he was zapped. Anyways, uh, it's, I don't know, because people are trolling for dollars, I guess. Uh, anyways, I want to finish this video by reading something from Roger Hallam. Roger Hallam. This is very interesting. He writes, to save the world, environmentalism has to die. We didn't bang on about climate change because it would have lost us votes. And this is very key to the thing that I just read about awareness around climate change. Not only are people aware of climate change and think it's an important issue, but more people are becoming aware that it's also political kryptonite. It's also on progressive channels, viewer kryptonite, right? So people that care about climate change care about climate change. They also understand that it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. It's the same with political parties. So I'm going to read this. We didn't bang on about climate change because it would have lost us votes. This is a Green Party member on Facebook. The Green Party saying we didn't want to talk about climate change too much because it would have lost us votes. Anybody who is sophisticated enough or savvy enough of a voter understands that the Democratic Party only cares about climate change in theory. Only cares about climate change because they realize it's popular. Are they going to do anything about climate change? No, they are not. That's actually why I'm not voting for Biden. Not because I care about climate change, not because I think he cares about climate change, because I know he doesn't. Do I think Trump cares about climate change? No, of course I don't. He does not. That's why I'm not voting for Trump or the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, because neither of them care about climate change. It's that simple. Is that easy enough to understand? Hope you all get it. Conventional environmentalism is rationalist, repressed, and reformist. Compare the quote above with the mantra of probably the most effective direct action movement of recent decades, ACT UP. We didn't give a F what people thought of us, and that was our strength, says Larry Kramer. As the originator and strategic designer behind Extinction Rebellion, and based on 5 years of field research with a variety of radical campaigns, from rent strikes to causalized labor mobilizations, I can say without any hesitation, nothing changes without disruption, the breaking of the law. Again, the Democratic Party is not going to save you from climate change. I'm sorry. If you believe that, you are delusional. Upsetting disruption and irrational emotion. The total opposite of the nicely approach of environmentalism. The very term environmentalism betrays its fundamental incoherence. It is based upon the ridiculous Cartesian assumption that there is us and then there is the world, myself and the environment out there to be exploited, raped, and patted on the head when it gets a bit tricky. Understanding this every present threat to humanity requires we get over this disastrous division. Is COVID an environmental issue? Are our bodies part of nature? Are our children who will die from starvation as climate breakdown goes nonlinear part of us or part of the environment? Nature is us and we are nature. Get with the program before we go extinct. The issue is not the environment, quote unquote. It is political corruption and criminality. Thank you, Roger Hallam. Why focus on the conduit of this evil rather than the evil itself? What we need to look at is who is doing the destroying, and what is the outcome. The ruling class are the culprits, and the outcome is social collapse. We are not looking at higher temperatures, burning forests, and rising sea levels. That is physical reductionism. We are looking at 20 World War IIs by the end of the century, maybe 5, maybe 50. Take your pick on where you place the risk distribution curve. War is the outcome of elite pathology and the interlocked compounding social effects that come with it: mass slaughter, mass rape, mass migration, the emptying of cities, and disintegration of state authority. Starvation drives genocide, and genocide drives starvation. This is first and foremost an existential security risk. It is post-green. It is a million miles from allotments and green wellies. The only effective response at this stage is the revolutionary struggle. There are only two optimal endpoints: radical state-based democracy or fascistic state-based autocracy. When an existential crisis hits, there is an iron rule. The state takes control. The issue is who controls it, the people or the elites. We know this is coming with absolute certainty because we are not talking here about social processes, which are difficult to predict, but geophysical processes which are absolutely set. Ice melts when it turns hot. When it gets hot, it gets hotter. Forests burn when it turns hot. When it gets hot, it gets hotter. Permafrost melts when it turns hot. When it gets hot, it gets hotter. When you drive a lorry at 100 miles per hour into a concrete wall, you cannot stop the crash when you are 5 meters away. We crossed the 5-meter point around 10 years ago. The crash has already happened. Ironically, it's environmentalists who can't see this non-brainer deduction from the data. The essence of environmentalism is the humanist dogma that nature is inert. We can exploit... Do you guys notice he used the word humanist? Humanist as in the context of being wrong. We can exploit it, and yet we must protect it. It is the slave owner mentality. It is inconceivable that it will kill you, and so you cannot conceive of it. COVID is the stab wound, but still the denial is hanging on. For the next few months or years, we have left environmentalism to try to prevent revolutionary preparations by insisting on continuing the death spiral of backwards-looking pragmatism with this grotesque formulation: don't mention climate as it puts off voters. No one wants to tell the truth because no one else in the public sphere is telling the truth. The government, the environmental movement, and the public are playing a suicidal game of mutually reinforcing denial. No one wants to say it's now too late and that collapse is now locked in. The environmentalist gatekeepers cannot understand that only revolutionary political action to take control of the state will prevent the slide from inevitable collapse to possible extinction, functional or absolute, take your pick. Revolutionary action, to be clear, is no rehash of the elitist middle-class direct action movements of the past 3 decades with their poor me, individualistic narcissism and obsession with catastrophically ineffectual horizontalism, a chronic phobia of structure, functional hierarchy, and leadership. Instead, we have to look to civil resistance struggles in the global south and our radical collective mobilization traditions before 1990. This means a fusion of the end of the month and end of the world narratives. It means a rediscovery of strong and disciplined vanguard organizations which trigger the political confrontations that will bring the 3.5% onto the street. And then they have to be clear a democratic mandate to negotiate. Have a clear democratic mandate to negotiate with governments to replace it with citizens' assemblies. The massive turnaround in radical political culture has to happen now. Otherwise, the fascism will easily overpower leaderless and dispersed social protests with violence and their billionaire funding. Think Elon Musk. The revolutionary demographic needs to be the focus of mobilization, the ignored and humiliated working class and lower middle class of regional towns and cities, which have always provided the ground troops of social upheaval. The urban liberal middle class talks the talk but will never walk the walk because they have too much skin in the game. The old environmentalist alliance is dead. The new alliance will include a minority of middle-class activists who understand they have to now be in service to the new populist street-talking mass mobilization, and the rest of the old alliance will become historically irrelevant. This will be 10 or 20% of people from radical NGOs, Green Party, and Extinction Rebellion, and such like. They will combine with the working-class-led anti-austerity social media networks from the North, Wales, and Southwest, in alliance with embedded community activist networks from the inner cities. Beyond Politics, Burning Pink, which I helped to set up, is working on creating this new alliance. It is not clear whether it will succeed or not. The forces of denial are still strong, but something along these lines needs to happen, and there is no time to lose. We have a small window before fascistic forces take over. The decisions we make now will have massive consequences beyond our imaginations. Let's not delude ourselves any longer. History had returned with a vengeance, and it's time to get real. This is something Roger Hallam wrote, written 48 hours prior to his arrest and imprisonment today, the 25th of August, 2020. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed that writing from Roger Hallam. Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.